this is going to be pretty much a review of Pythagorean's theorem. So please remember while you're doing all of these problems, make sure that you have your formula sheet out so that you'll know the exact formulas. So if we look in the formula sheet, we'll see that for Pythagorean's theorem, a squared plus b squared is going to be equal to c squared, where a is a leg of the right triangle, b is also another leg of the triangle. It doesn't matter which leg a and b is, as long as you make sure that they're both legs. And then c is going to be called the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse will always be the longest side of the right triangle, and it would always be opposite of that right angle. So over here, this little square denotes a right angle, so opposite of that right angle is going to be the hypotenuse length. Okay, now all we have to do at this point is plug it in. So we have a squared, so that's 7 plus b squared. B is 8, so 8 squared is going to give me c squared. Okay, so on our calculator, 7 times 7 is 49, plus 8 times 8 is 64. That's going to give me c squared. Now 49 plus 64 will give me 113. So 113 is equal to c squared, but please just notice that that's not the answer. This is just c in its square form. In order to do that, in order to find c, we're going to have to find the square root of 113. Okay, so let's type that in the calculator. Square root of 113 is going to be equal to about 10.63, and then I'm always going to round to the nearest tenth here. So it's going to be 10.6. Okay, so that's going to be the length of c. C is equal to, let me just put it over here, 10.6. Okay, now, whenever you're given a word problem, you just have to make sure you read it and draw the triangle to see if it makes sense. Jake leaves school to go home on his bike. He rides 8 kilometers north. So right here, north is this direction, so let me just put a 8. And then 15 kilometers west. West is this way. So this is going to be 15 kilometers. Alright, as you can see, I create a little triangle here. This is the hypotenuse. So find the distance from Jake's home to the school as the crow flies. Alright, all we're going to do is go from here to over here. So a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. So this is going to be my c value. Always try to label your c first so you know what's going on. So we got 8 squared plus 15 squared equals c squared. 64 plus, we have 15 multiplied by 15, which is going to be 225. And then this is going to be equal to c squared. So 225 plus 64 is going to be equal to 289. That's going to be the value of c squared. Now to find c, I got to take the square root of 289. So the square root of 289 is 17. So my answer is going to be 17 kilometers. Alright, once again, a helicopter rose vertically from the helipad 300 meters. So vertically from the helipad means to go up. So 300 meters. Then flew west 400 meters, so same direction as the last problem, 400 meters west. Calculate the distance from the starting point. So I want to know this over here. So I want to know c. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. We got 400 squared plus 300 squared is going to be equal to c squared. So 400 squared plus 600, plus 300 squared is going to give me 250,000. Okay? So, if I take the square root of 250,000, I end up with 500. So, C is going to be equal to 500. That's 500 meters. A park in the shape of a rectangle is 8 miles long and 6 miles wide. So it's in the shape of a rectangle, so I'm just going to draw a rectangle here. So it's going to be 8 miles long and then 6 miles wide. Carl runs from one corner diagonal across the park with his dog. Find the distance Carl runs. So this is going to be our diagonal. So this is what we're trying to find. So I can just rewrite the 8 miles down here. So we got 8 and 6, C. So you got a squared plus b squared is going to be equal to c squared. 6 squared plus 8 squared is equal to c squared. We got 36 plus 64 equals c squared. 100 equals c squared. So then c is equal to 10. Alright, so that'll be 10 miles. Alright, so these are just straightforward Pythagorean theorem problems. Now, there's going to be situations in which you don't know what A or B is, but you know what C is, and you're going to have to go backwards. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to solve it two ways. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So far, this is going to be our C value. It's always important to note that first. So we have 15 squared plus B squared. We don't know what B squared is, so we have to keep it as B. But we do know that C is 17. So we got 225 plus something squared is equal to 17 multiplied by 17, which is 289. Now at this point, I want to get B squared all by itself. So I'm going to subtract 225 from the other side. Subtract 225 from the other side. So now B squared is going to be equal to 289 minus 225. That's going to be 64. Alright, so now the square root of 64 is going to give me B. Square root of 64 is 8, so it's going to be 8 feet. Okay? So, basically the same thing. You just always have to make sure you identify C first. So, let's do a couple more of these. Eva's TV screen is 20 inches wide. If the diagonal is 25, how tall is it? So, the tallness is what we don't know. So, we do know this is 20. And we do know that this over here is 25. So, this is what we don't know. Alright, so here's another way we can write it. We know that A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So what we can do, since we know C squared, if we take away A squared, then we're going to get B squared. This is basically the same thing I did. I subtracted. So if you want to switch around the formula, you can. This is how it'll work like this. 25 squared minus 20 squared equals B squared. So 25 multiplied by 25 is going to be equal to 625. So 625 multiplied by 400, 20 squared is 400, equals B squared. So if I take 625 and I subtract 400 from it, I should get 225. So 225 is B squared, and if I just find the square root of that, I get B is going to be equal to 15. So the height in this case, tallness, is going to be equal to 15 inches. Alright, once again, the right triangle has a hypotenuse, so I'm just going to go ahead and draw it. It has a hypotenuse of 13 units and a leg of 5 units. So it's going to be 5 units. Alright, find the other leg. So x is what we're trying to figure out. So I'm going to just go back to the regular one. A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. So we got 5 squared plus B squared is equal to 13 squared. 25 plus B squared is equal to 169 minus 25 minus 25. So B squared is equal to 144, and then the square root of 144 is equal to 12. So it's going to be 12 units. 12 units is going to be the leg. Last one. The bottom of a ladder must be placed 3 feet from a wall. The ladder is 12 feet long. Approximately how high does the wall, how high up the wall does touch the ladder? Alright, does the ladder touch? Okay, here we go. So we have the wall right here. The bottom of the ladder must be 3 feet from the wall. So this must be the bottom of the ladder here. So it's going to be 3 feet away from the wall. The ladder is 12 feet long. So the ladder is leaning against the wall. So the ladder is our hypotenuse. So it's going to be right here. And it's saying that it's 12 feet long. This is what we don't know. This is x feet. So a squared plus b squared is going to be equal to c squared. I know a squared is 3. A is 3. B is what I don't know. And then c is going to be equal to 12. So we got 9 plus b squared is going to be equal to 144. Alright, so now just minus 9 and minus 9. So you got b squared, 144 minus 9 should give me 135. So that is 135. So b is equal to the square root of 135. So this is going to be approximately 11.6. 11.6 feet. Okay? Now, the last thing I would like to go over is a property called the converse of the Pythagorean theorem. Now, all that means is if a squared plus b squared equals c squared, then it must make a right triangle. Okay? So, let's just say that I have a triangle whose lengths are, let's say this is 3, this is 4, and this is 6. Okay? All I want to know is, does this create a right triangle? There's only one way to figure out if it creates a right triangle, and that's to use the Pythagorean theorem. So a squared plus b squared is going to be equal to c squared. We got 3 squared plus 4 squared is going to be equal to 6 squared. 9 plus 16 equals 36. Is 9 plus 16 equal to 36? No. 25 is not equal to 36. So I just tested to see if this triangle here is a right triangle. Alright, and as you can see, it clearly isn't, because a squared plus b squared does not equal to c squared.